I started driving like that. It's much more relaxed, right? More space, more time. But the point of that was I was driving very mindfully, and I discovered there was no hurry, and there was really no destination. Because this corner is everything. This is what's happening right now. Oh, I'm rolling up this street here. I'm rolling up the street, and there's so much to see. It's so complex. And I'm right here. I'm not lost in the mind of the destination, and therefore a little tight. It's just here. And what a wonderful practice. It's the practice of letting ourselves actually exist where we are. And therefore being alive, being conscious. So this dream, would you close the window, Wally, because the kids are going to come out, I'm sure, momentarily. Thanks. So I've been swimming around a lot in the contemplation on death and how to use that in order to be more fully alive, and reading and rereading and preparing for my class on the 5 invitations. And the 5 invitations are, nice way to live life. Don't wait. Welcome everything and push nothing away. Bring your whole self to the experience. Find a place of rest in the middle of things. And cultivate don't know mind. It's a nice to-do list, isn't it? Don't wait. Be alive now. Do what you're fantasizing doing, because if you don't, it may never happen. Jim shared with me when we were talking, can I say that? In the beginning, when you were meeting each other, one of his most senior long-term students died this week, unexpectedly. Poof. And I don't know whether it's my age or the role that I'm playing, I get to hear about a lot more deaths and friends, and it's really, what's the word? I don't know. It's normal, but people just disappear all the time. It's like we go along and it's gone. So why wait? If there's someone thinking, that was a beautiful presentation of NVC. I loved that. Very eloquent. If there's someone that you're estranged from and you're thinking, maybe someday I'll do what I need to do to deal with that, better do it today. I don't want to lost too far on this tangent, but when my mother died, we had a little memorial service, and one of the family friends who was really she really played the role of an auntie. And we spoke at that memorial service about the challenges in our family. There was a lot of alcohol and other difficulties. And my sisters and I spoke about it at this relatively small gathering. And this woman named Gladys McGregor, came at the end and said to me, I didn't know you knew about all that. Well, we had lived it. But she said, I have so many stories I could tell you. I think they'd be very helpful to you. And I thought, great, I'm going to go visit Gladys. And she lived up on the Seashell Peninsula, a little north of Vancouver. And I waited. And then about 9 months later, I called, and her daughter answered. And she said, oh, Robert, Mom died last week. I missed it by a week because I was too busy. Right? So don't wait. Why not do those healing things and those pleasant things and those? Why not do it now? And welcome everything, push nothing away. In our meditation, to be free, to be awake, it really is about welcoming everything, even the most unpleasant and the most pleasant, to open up and feel and know what's really happening. To bring your whole self to the experience, committing to life. Dare I really fully incarnate? Find a place of rest in the middle of things. Why not really develop a strong daily practice so that more and more you learn, a formal practice, that more and more we learn to be, no matter what's happening, that there's that place inside, that awareness, which notices, whoa, look what's happening now. Right? That there's this quiet spot, because that in us which is awake is none of the observations. Right? If, quote, you can be aware of being really frightened or angry or freaked out, that which is aware of it is not freaked out. It's just aware. It's colorless, odorless, it's contentless. And you could be thinking, well, it's kind of far out. Well, just be aware of the feelings in your body right now. That's the experience. And then cultivate don't know mind, which is that incredible curiosity, which is, what's happening? Because if we stay in our opinions and I know who this person is, or I know what this mood is, or then we're not curious and open. And so every time we come to meditation, it's really true, if you notice this, I have no idea what's going to happen when I come to meditate. Could be the mind will get really calm and quiet, or boom, up will come some unfinished business that I'll wind up dealing with. So I've been swimming around in that, and this dream came. It was see what I can remember of it. It happened internally in a place that I've dreamt of numerous times before. And there were two people in it. One was a man and one was a woman. I was identified with the man, but of course, everyone in the dream is who we are. I mean, we are everyone in the dream. And it was at a place where there was a lot of water moving by and through. And a child had drowned. And it was apparent that this was in a certain way, a very dangerous place to live, because there were channels of water. And if you fell into one of them, you'd be gone. You've been to places like that where there's just lots of fast-flowing water. And the child had been playing. It was a fairly young child. I never saw the child. It was past. And the female character was saying, "We can't live here. This is too dangerous. We can't live here." And the male character was saying, "Well, we don't really have any choice. This is where we do live." And then there were strategies of how well we could put nets across, and then the kids could play outside, and then if they did fall in, or if we fell in, we could catch ourselves on the nets, or maybe we could just put a cable across. I know, and I lived in Switzerland for a couple of years, and there were two bridges in Geneva where they had a cable actually across below a waterfall, and it was there so that people could, if they went over the thing, they could catch on the cable. me see, was there any more? It had a tension to it of an unresolvable dilemma. We live in this place where at any moment, the children could fall in the water and be swept away, and yet this is where we live. And I awakened from it in a lot of equanimity, that I wasn't identified with either role. And then as I lay there, the reflection emerged that really is where we live, isn't it? That life is, in fact, utterly precarious. And we can do some things. We can take care. We can drive more carefully. We can do what we can do to make ourselves safe. But it's really risky. There are rivers flowing through us and through the culture and through the world that make our lives quite tenuous. And it's the living with that knowledge that makes the living so utterly precious. And so, I have a thing that I say kind of humorously, but it goes deep in me. When I meet someone, I'll sometimes say, "I'm so grateful that you're magically appearing in my consciousness right now." Because people really do appear, don't we, with each other? We appear, and then we're gone. Moment after moment. It's not an unusual experience. As I'm saying that, I have some poignancy of my daughter Tara, who now lives here in Portland. But she took after her father and traveled the world for some years. And I made a point of always going to where she was. So there was the greeting. She went to Thailand in her junior year of high school. It was her idea. She got a Rotary scholarship and went for a year. Off. And so I went there, and I remember the greeting at the airport. And then the next moment, there was the parting at the airport. And then there was the greeting in Manaus, where all the fires are right now in Brazil. She spent 6 months with a tribe there in the Amazon. And so then there's that greeting. I'm feeling a little sad as I'm saying this. And then there was the greeting at PDX, and then gone again. And it's still the same. Right? We had the afternoon together recently, and there was the greeting, and then there's the parting. And it's just like that. And we can gloss it over and not pay attention, or we can pay attention, and then when we actually get to greet one another or hang out together in some moment, like we are right here, wow. Right? We actually, mysteriously, we actually get to connect with each other. And the more capable we are of being in the present moment, the more capable we are then of actually making what I think is an intimate connection. It's like you connected intimately with a clerk. Boom. How are you today? This is who and how. This is how I'm showing up. How are you showing up? And I find it really interesting how much avoidance of that I find in myself, and I see in the people around myself. And so you bring up the notion, well, let's remember that we're going to die. Let's remember that life is so utterly weird. I have a great app on my phone. I highly recommend. I think it was free. It's called We Croak. And let me see if there's one up here, because sometimes they hover and wait for me. 5 times a day, there's not one here. 5 times a day, there's a little black box that comes up and says, remember, you're going to die. Touch here for the message. And then there's something from all kinds of people, lots of people. And some of them seem irrelevant, but some of them are really poignant. And there was one from Mark Twain, who was quite a guy. Quite a guy. Don't get lost, Robert. If you've never read Mark Twain's War Prayer, who's read it? Yeah. Make a note. Read it today, Mark Twain's War Prayer. He wrote it and then told his publisher or whoever, don't let go of this till after I'm dead, because it says something really interesting about going to war, like it's madness. But let's see if I can remember. Yeah, I'm so glad I can get back. He said, I wasn't here for billions of years. I'm alive now, but I'll be gone soon, and then I won't be here for billions of years. Why would I make a fuss out of dying? I was okay for billions of years. Strange perspective, but it's true. So, avoidances. How is it, and I'll ask this of you, how do you avoid being fully alive? How do you stay lost in codependent worrying or shopping or gourmet this or that? You ever traveled with really gourmet folks who make every meal a catastrophe? Right? The people who send meals back with frequency, oh, this is too salty, take it back. It's food. How about this? Do you avoid your life by engaging in this? I mean, the research is getting really solid. The more people are on Facebook and related things, the more depressed and isolated they are. The fantasies about online community filling the needs of, it doesn't. It's useful. I mean, there's great things that can happen. Like Doyle's online teaching is very helpful. But if that's where all our friends are, there's a whole generation, I forget the numbers, but it's in the tens of thousands, maybe more, I forget their name, Japanese young men whose parents have supported them in living in their bedrooms and playing video games, and that's all they do. They're in their late 20s, mid to late 20s, totally damaged, unfunctional people. But their parents have been willing to, imagine, they obviously flip out if mom and dad say, you could do the dishes. So, our question for all of us, I think, is, because I think we all do it, how do we avoid being fully alive? What did we learn from our family that we shouldn't feel or shouldn't do, that we still don't feel or don't do? Or maybe we get hyper involved in things and forget that we actually have relationships. So, you can guess where this is going. I think that sitting and getting really in touch with ourselves, with what we're thinking in this moment, what we're feeling in this moment, with how we're relating to the people around us in this moment, is the linchpin. It's to do a meditation practice, to cultivate mindfulness, to cultivate concentration and awareness, is what opens the whole thing up. And I like to go when Jim is teaching, I go in and hang out with the kids and Rebecca. And Rebecca was reading this lovely story about children doing kind things for their parents and for each other. And I realized, wow, this really is fine childhood education. And they're learning that doing kind things is really a worthy value at a very young age. And so, along with the mindfulness and developing a mind that is luminous and observes itself, which therefore means it runs away from itself less, then we also have the loving kindness piece, where we then use this self to be kind to itself, to do the work that's necessary to open up the self-criticism and self-hatred, and to heal that some. And then also using this self to be of service to our loved ones and others. And it's really straightforward. But unless my belief, unless we stop, unless we create a little space, how can we possibly do something new? How can we know where we're trapped unless we're willing to stop and really look? So I think that's what I have to say. Any response or question would be very helpful, and I actually am finished in enough time that there's room for some of this. So if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. The microphone will come to you. And if you speak into the top of the microphone, fairly close. And please say your name. A little known thing about cricket is she's a dancer. She leads dance communities in San Francisco and around the country. There you go.
I'm often struck, Robert, when you're talking about death and dying. It's so easy to think in terms of, living and then sickness and old age and aging and decaying and dying in that kind of sequence. And I guess I just want to point out that it doesn't always happen in that sequence. We talk about getting a hold of people, and oftentimes we think of that in terms of people that are older. And when you finally were trying to get a hold of Gladys, she was gone. Gladys could have been a very young person. It doesn't always take aging or illness. When my mother was 33 years old, she was driving. Two young men, late teens, early 20s, were going the wrong way, in the wrong lane. They were taking a corner wide. All four of them were killed. 33 years old. My stepfather was 35. These young men were in their late teens or early 20s. Take time to spend with people now, whatever age they are.
Did you hold it? Somebody put up their hand, I think. Maybe. Over here. One of the Beaverton distant friends of my stepdaughter, 2 kids just graduated, 2 boys, going fast in their car, gone. Just ready to go off to college. They made it through graduation night, right? They do really elaborate things. Maybe many of you don't know this, that at graduation, at Nina's graduation, they had to meet at the school. They were not allowed to have phones, no alcohol or drugs, and then they were whisked away to somewhere secret and they were there all night. And the idea is to get them not to drive and get drunk on their graduation night. These two boys made it past that, but not further. Please.
Hi.
Michael.
I've recently become aware of how terrifying it is to ask for freedom, or can be.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this prayer I sometimes say that says, "Relieve me of the bondage of self." And one of the things about that is that sometimes it happens.
Sometimes.
It happens. And all these things, my house, my marriage, just whoof, go away. And in the midst of that, or as that process has been progressing, I say, well, you asked for freedom. I guess you're getting it. And maybe I don't get to pick how and when it happens or how it looks. But all those things I want to be free from are very habitual and long-lasting. And so I appreciated what you said about, I think it was the first invitation.
A little closer.
I think what you said about the first invitation.
Yeah.
So if you have a minute, I want to say a bit more about that.
About don't wait?
Yeah, because that's part of this too. Because I'm like, okay, you said you didn't want to be tied to these things, so you can do these other things, or now you have all these opportunities. So. Maybe I just wanted to say all that out loud. I don't know. If you get a question out of that.
I don't quite hear the question. Yeah.
Oh. What does one do with the terror of finding freedom?
Ah, that's a question.
There you go.
In the one of the things I love about Theravadan Buddhism is, oh wait, I'll do it differently. Do you know why it's really boring and tedious to talk to Buddhists? They always talk with a list. There's these progressions, and many of them are very accurate. And when one practices, and congratulations, you're obviously practicing deeply. When one practices deeply, there's a direction that happens, an evolution. You know, when we start for basic stress management, and we're sitting for 20 minutes a day, and we actually learn to relax, and we learn just to reduce our symptoms of all kinds of things. That's great. And then we practice some more, and we become more and more psychologically and emotionally comfortable, and we can face our grief, and we discover that there is anger in there, or sexual impulses, or whatever, and we face our addictions, and then we gradually wind them down. And then we discover that there's this further progression that happens where we start noticing, for instance, that everything really is arising. Here's a great word, tachistoscopically, just that phenomena happen to us in these little instantaneous things. And then we weave them together with memory and thought and imagination. And there is a commonly encountered state, which is terror, it's the terror of wait. This really is all impermanent. It's not, oh yeah, that's a nice idea, but in the very moment when you see things disappearing, and then there's a terror. And when that happens, it's really helpful to have a skillful teacher who will say, for most people that doesn't happen except on retreat, originally anyway, and when we're just simply focusing in and. It's very useful to have a teacher at that moment because she or he will say, well, congratulations, your practice is going really well. This isn't a mistake. Because there's a way that life really is terrifying. So focus on the terror and let it be. And really, this is a time not to sleep much. It's a time to stay really focused and to see what happens. If you can tolerate this level of, or when you can tolerate this level of things arising and passing away. And then that passes. And and what emerges from that is a lot of love and compassion and kindness and wisdom, which is, it's really true. There is nothing solid here. And it's actually true. It's not where we live. We live within in the fantasy of solid, and we get with our, my political party, and then we can do battle with each other. And it's a fantasy. It's also true, and we have to be responsible. But the meditator gets into a very different kind of space with that. And the preciousness of the moments of connection that we have becomes more apparent. Is that making sense in your, yeah? I had an experience of that some years ago. I was doing a self-retreat at Mount Angel Abbey. And it just emerged. And it was a Sunday morning. And I went out to do some walking meditation, and the people were all on their way into church. And there was a couple, a young couple with a baby. And they were the quintessential couple with a baby. And my usual experience wasn't there. And I found myself looking at them and realizing the words, I don't know whether the words will carry it, but they were starting, it was like, oh no. These people, they're in these meat bodies. And they think being with their little baby is this wonderful thing. But they're all going to die. And it wasn't a reflection so much as like just perceiving this. It was like, whoa, boy. And so am I. And then I'm in a meat body. And that's a strange thing to realize. Because it's not permanent. It's a very temporary little house that I get to take care of to carry consciousness around. So strange stuff happens when you practice more deeply. And what do you do then when you come out of the excitement of that terror? Then you have, may I borrow you for a moment, Connie? Then you get to realize, oh my, right? We get to have this. Thanks. They're temporary, but they're capable of this. Wow. They're capable, we're really capable of loving. I mean, really. Loving ourselves. As weird as we are. Most of us, maybe all of us, we go around thinking, oh, I'm so weird. If anybody ever really knew how weird I was, they would think I was weird. and it's true, you are. And your neurotic identity is really bizarre. And so's mine. Because they are. And we hide that from each other. It's one of the things that classes and small groups reveal over time, and we get safer and safer. And that's what there's some spiritual friend groups here at PIMC that are very functional, been going on for some years. You get to discover that someone who's got it all together comes into a meeting and they're a mess. And then we get to comfort them. And then the next time it's somebody else who's a mess. I mean, disheveled, not doing very well, and challenged in their practice. And that's one of the reasons we call this the Portland Insight Meditation community, because it's in community, Sangha, that we get to learn to love each other in our remarkable unfinishedness. Another question? Oh, microphone? Do I have it? Oh, there it is. Thank you. Melanie.
Hi, I'm Melanie. And I just wanted to give another piece to this because I hear you, Michael. And I really appreciate and practice awareness of the impermanence, and often it makes me sad, or makes me feel lonely, or makes me feel angry, or whatever.
Go ahead.
But one thing I find really helpful is when I'm feeling sad, let's say, recognizing it's just sadness. It's not my sadness. There are so many people out there that are sad. And connecting to that universal sadness or loneliness or anger or whatever it is a really helpful way when you're practicing to just let go of that attachment to it, you know? It's like, oh, this is just sadness, and it will pass. So I just wanted to, because that's a useful thing for me anyway in my practice. I know he's going to stop.
Yeah, I want to add to, a little bit subject change, but add to Doyle's plug for NVC, nonviolent communication, that one of the things that I have learned in doing it in another thread of nonviolent communication is to learn to a relationship with parents, dead or alive, because they're inside us. And we see who they are, how they're manifested in our behavior, and how we have to connect with that. And finally, what really happens in nonviolent communication is you connect with yourself, which is tying it back to this conversation. Because really, what you learn is that this yourself is where all your behavior, all your communication comes from. And as you really get to it, this becomes a loving being.
Hi, Robert. What you're talking about to me feels like unsafe. Okay, I mean, you have to lay down your arms. You have to, literally, all your weapons. You have to push the personality aside to get through the curtains, and then you're on this place where there's nothing, no safety. That's a lot to ask for, you know. And what do I have by getting there? How do I?
Great question. I love your candor and directness. You're a treasure to us here for that. That's, yeah. There's that central teaching of the Buddha, the three characteristics of existence: impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and not self. Anatta, literally non-soul. Well, I remember hearing that. It's like, I mean, give me a break. I mean, I've worked so hard to get a slightly functional self. I'd like to keep it, please. Right. Well, what if the discovery is not, oh no, I've lost myself, but, oh, whew, what a relief, it was never here to begin with. And I am everything instead. And I still have my self, my personality, and I can still function in the world, but I'm no longer in the delusion that it's really solid and that I have to defend it and that it's another terminology for being more loving and at ease. That the Buddha said, the taste of this practice at the beginning is the taste of freedom. The taste of this practice in the middle is the taste of freedom. The taste at the end is the taste of freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from suffering. I mean, what if, in the political context that I know you're so beautifully committed to, and what if
I've got to connect with people I do not agree with.
Yeah.
And I need
Well, not only do you need to connect with them, but what if when you entered that meeting, you realized they were you? What if you love them that much and you realize this is a person who's got really crazy ideas? I mean, what if the person who is most abhorrent to you politically, you could look at or be with and know, this is me. It's me in a different form, and I want to stop her or him, but I can't hold hatred toward them because we're actually one being. Love thy neighbor as thyself, right? It's not, I think from Jesus, that wasn't a metaphorical statement. It was love your neighbor because they are yourself. So we have young people in the chute. I invite you to come in and make a big circle. Thank you. Please come and have a potluck. And Connie, shall we do this for the...
Oh, the kids? I think the battery works.
Oh,
Hey, everybody, while we are forming the...
volume.
All right.
Good.
While we are forming the circle,
Hi.
there are Dharma consults available. Jim can do a few Dharma consults today
and
for
talk to
about
me
20
privately.
minutes if you want some help with your practice or to start a practice. And also wanted to let you know that our book group, which has been on hiatus for the summer, is starting up tomorrow. If you're interested, ask me.
Thank you, sir.
L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. B is very, very extraordinary. E is even more than anyone that you adore, and love is all that I can give to you. Love is more than just a game for two. Two in love can make it. Take my heart and please don't break it. Love was made for me and you.
That was Connie's idea. I disavow it myself.
You picked up my leg.
Uh-oh, I picked up your leg?
No, Dada.
Oh, your dad did, I see. It's a long way to the floor. Huh. Hi. So please find a hand to hold. May I hold your hand? Thank you. You want to hold this hand too? Oh, you get your dog. Yeah. So, hands. How cool. We have hands. Means we can actually reach out and make contact with another person. And then on the other hand, there's another. So what would you wish for the person on your right? Remembering that we're both flashing through a lifetime here for a little bit. What would you wish? Bringing that energy into the world. And the person on your left, giving that hand a little squeeze. And then around the circle, hand to hand, heart to heart. And so much love and kindness in this room. Let's let it fling itself outward through the homes around us and all across the planet, to the east, the west, the north, the south, to all of our fellow beings here on the earth, 7-some billion of us humans and countless billions of others. Sometimes I think of this as resting back in love, just dissolving into the field of love. So may all beings everywhere share in the merits of our practice. May we all know happiness and the causes of happiness. And a thank you to Ruth Dennison, whose incredible generosity and kindness brought us this center. So do we have a selected singing collective? Who? I need a... Lisa? Louisa? All right. So may all beings be happy. When you're ready. 1, 2, 3.
May all
Beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Yay. Yay, sadhu. Can I have the mic back? Yay. Thank you. We're done with that. All right, now don't blow yet. We're going to do the ancient ritual where everyone think, wait. Think of a wish. That is good wisdom. All right, so being back. All right, then I'm going to do the count, and everyone has a wish. Everyone breathe in. 1, 2, 3, blow. Yay. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. Sure, this is the moment.